You're not on the air yet.
I want to say good evening to those of you who are listening, watching to the Houston Media Source Public Affairs Public Access broadcast. Over 30 years of broadcasting some of the most important information that you will get in the community, from the community, by Houston leaders, corporate leaders, and various leaders. I consider this a group who are on my panel tonight, community leaders, well over 100 years worth of expertise and service, not only in terms of our Houston community, but the state of Texas and across the country, in fact. So I'm very proud to have them with us this evening. So we are dealing with what we consider a topic of the times. Where do we go from here? And I think from one of the ideas that has been expressed over the years is our discussions. We've gone from economic realities to political realities, to health realities, a number of factors that impact our community, and try to give insight to the listeners, those who might want to get a hand up or hand down, whichever one you see. But I'm going to certainly ask, first of all, that one of our noted elected officials, my classmate from Jack Yates High School, those of you.
He is not going to make me as old as him. No, I'm not.
Those of you who know the history of Jack Yates.
I am not your classmate.
She is a phenomenal educator who has retired and certainly active as a city councilwoman here in the great city of Houston, Texas, and has been doing some phenomenal work with the communities over the years on boards with education, and certainly now with the city of Houston as we go through whatever changes are necessary. And I know she's just such a busy person, but I always like for her to give us updates. The councilwoman represents us in District D, and she will give us an update first, because I got a couple of questions for you. Go right ahead, our good councilwoman, Carolyn Shabazz.
Good evening, Dr. Gilmore. Always a pleasure. Of course, you don't give me much of a window when you're getting me on your show. It's basically be there at this time in 5 minutes. And so anyway, but it's always a pleasure, and to join the other topic experts, subject matter experts who are on the program. And so certainly you would probably, it's so much going on in the city and around that certainly I am welcome your questions because you don't want me to just go on and on and on. And this is my NAACP night, and so I said that I would come in. I see you, Bishop. I see you. Anyway, and so I wanted to spend the first 30 minutes here with you before I go to the meeting, which actually starts at the same time. So if you have some questions, why don't you just everybody can ask me a question except Charles X. White. How about that?
Well, I guess mine might not be more. It might be more of a comment than a question relative to the development of the Ion Center. They seem to have just come on with an explosion of programs, and so how is that working based upon your analysis of it? How is that working?
Well, the Ion is one of those things that we're going to have to see. There are a lot of things that are going on there. In fact, I'm going to have an event at some point in the very near future there, so that I can invite the community people, particularly the civic club leaders, the HOA leaders, to come and have a tour, and we can discuss some things in the Ion. at some point, I also want to do something based on helping people to be certified to do city business, because there's a lot of things that come through the city, but of course, there are a lot of African Americans that are left out, a lot of Latinos that are left out because we don't have the certifications. We certainly have the skills and we have the business acumen, but we sometimes don't have the certifications that allow us to bid on certain jobs. And there's a lot of money in these jobs. And so certainly, we're a little behind, with the pandemic because, we weren't meeting. And then, of course, the ION was just completed a few months ago. But I would like for it to be a center of economic development for certainly my entire district. And so, but of course, the access of it and the sphere of it is for the full city. But of course, I'm the council member for District D. And so certainly I am concerned about the economic opportunities that avail themselves for my District D constituents. And so, it's a beautiful building. I haven't been in it recently, but I have heard of events that have taken place, but I want to take advantage of it. It's well located. It also has adequate parking. And I would like to introduce the members of my community to the ION so that they can benefit as well. Of course, there was a pushback from some third ward organizations regarding gentrification and those things that generally happen when you have these types of buildings in your midst. And so, of course, those are some things that we have to look at. There were some agreements made, but certainly we need to have some accountability for what was put on paper. And so basically that's it in terms of the ION that I can contribute at this point. But certainly if you have any specific questions.
Well,
about
I guess you did mention gentrification, which was my next question. I'll let the other panelists today have some questions. The idea, Third Ward has been front and center lately for several major developers coming in and seemingly not even asking permission, to build. And I read one article that said that if this was River Oaks or Memorial, that wouldn't have happened. And what do you think about that? I've seen a couple of, we've all seen the development.
I don't know if you're speaking specifically.
Well, I was talking about the one that was
the proposed 17 townhomes.
That was one. That's one. Then it's been they haven't asked me no permission over here in Third Ward. Have they asked you permission, Bishop Rush? Have you gotten any permission?
Well, they don't ask permission. What they do, they come in, they purchase the land, and then they get their permits and they move forward. And so what I have really been pushing the community to do is make sure you have your deed restrictions. We don't have zoning in Houston, but certainly our deed restrictions can offer us some kind of protection, as well as minimum lot size. I had a situation in my own neighborhood, really on the next street where I was actually raised in front of my parents in my childhood home, where there were 2 vacant lots and a developer wanted to put some townhouses in our neighborhood. Fortunately, we had a legal person on our that was one of our what am I trying to think of? One of our that were in our
homeowners association.
My civic association. Thank you, Reverend. And my homeowners, we don't have an HOA, in my civic club association, who worked actually for the legal department in the city. And so they really stayed on top of it and made sure that our deed restrictions were tight. And so what happened when they got ready to do the townhomes, they were not able to do it. And right now there's still that vacant lot. Because they were not able to do it because of minimum lot size and our deed restrictions. Now, they did build a beautiful home on one of the lots, but we were fine with that. But, it just changes the character of your neighborhood. And so the thing that's going on with the 17 townhomes, and I'm going to tell you, I feel very strongly about neighborhoods and keeping the character, especially over in that area, I would call that what would be probably our Black River Oaks, right off of Calhoun, across from McGregor Park. And right on the corner of Calhoun and Blythewood, a developer has this huge lot, and they are planning to build 17 townhomes. Well, you know, I'm just really concerned about that, because I know that if I lived over there, I would be appalled. But what they have done, according to city legal, they have followed the guidelines. And apparently there's some glitch in the deed restrictions that did not include those lots. But then they have indicated that they are going to seek legal relief. And, you know, a judge can make a decision that what the city legal interpreted that to be is not necessarily the case. And so, you know, they have Dr. Douglas, who actually lives, Dean Douglas, from the Thurgood Marshall, whose lot is like 2 doors down from where they are, his home rather, 2 doors down from where they're building. And he, all of these years, thought that he was included in the West McGregor Homeowners Association and in their deed restrictions. Well, according to legal, he is not. And so there's a real concern here, because if you're not included in the deed restrictions, then you're subject to the developers coming in, or you don't have your minimum lot size, you're subject to developers coming in and changing the entire character of your neighborhoods. And so I had meetings with, well, first, when it was brought to my attention, my office reached out, and we actually had the project stopped so that they could examine the deed restrictions. Invited Dean Douglas and another neighbor who's an attorney to come in, because it was actually their lots that were being impacted. The other lots are included in the deed restrictions. And, you know, they reviewed some paperwork, and then they did have the meeting over at one of the courthouses, at Wanda Adams Courthouse. And they decided, the HOA voted that they're going to seek legal relief. And so we're going to stay tuned on that, but I certainly support them because I would be appalled. And then we don't know if the infrastructure can handle and maintain 17 townhomes. It was actually designed, and according to some of the language in the current deed restrictions, to be for one home. You know, and then you know, they use now single family, but single family has really been defined now as townhomes. But certainly when we're looking at what the language said, and I think it came from like 1938, it was intended to be a home, okay? And not, you know, there was no, they didn't fathom townhomes back in 1938. But from this, I certainly hope that everyone will look at their deed restrictions, make sure you have your minimum lot sizes, because if you don't, you're going to subject yourself, and the developers come in and they cross their T's and dot their I's. And so you have to get ahead of it. You cannot wait to see, when we have to be proactive, you know, and not reactive, because when you're reactive, sometimes you're left out. And so certainly the message that I want to get across, particularly District D, is to make sure that you have your minimum lot size and that you have your deed restrictions. And so that's what's going on currently. I don't think they have started to build yet, but they have been given, the order was lifted for them to produce. And so I would think that if that homeowners association is going to do something, they need to do so expeditiously.
Bishop Rush, I saw you pointing the finger for that progression. And plus, you're an attorney, one of our noted attorneys here in the city of Houston. What's your feel on that gentrification? It's all around us.
Good evening to all of my compatriots that are here on this program tonight. So glad to see each and every one of you. I'm impressed that they even let me be a part of this this gathering here tonight. I worked with Latter-day Deliverance Church and Bishop Cossey when he was alive in Fifth Ward several years back. And this gentrification issue came up, and those outside suggested to the church there was nothing they could do. And they brought me in, and I said to them, you have to make up your mind. You've got to be like a pit bull. You've got to latch on and don't let anybody talk you out of the position of righteousness that you're taking. But I'm also observing exactly what Dr. Carolyn Evans Shabazz, my dear friend, just said. I about jumped out his chair because I wanted to get to the point. We are too reactive. And we, as a people, we need to be proactive. We need to cross our T's, dot our I's, get our stuff right from the beginning. And then you don't have all these problems. Then the final thing I want to say, because that's not what I think you had me on it for, is we should do more up front together. You know, it's a teamwork makes the dream work thing happen. And too often we're too isolated and too insulated, and we can come together to try to help one another wherever those weak spots are at. Well, nobody can go to all the programs, but I'm saying continue to risk what I like, Brother White. I came to one of his meetings many, many years ago, never will forget it. Very impressed with the number of constituents from various areas that he was pulling together to attack a problem. That's why it impresses me with Dr. Shabazz. That's what impresses me with Brother Reginald and all of you, Brother Carl. We have to come together to attack the problem. We say at my church, teamwork makes the dream work. That's all I'll say. Be proactive instead of always being reactive. Thank you.
Let me jump in, Gilmore, let me jump in here, because see, you got some slick bureaucrats at City Hall. See, they had a thing out the planning department called Chapter 42 that the residents would have to get so many on a certain street to prevent having that lot being available to have more than one structure on. So there's a lot of misinformation going on and coming on in from the city because they were playing musical chairs. So you have to watch the city because they changed the process and they changed the rules to the game. That was one of the issues that was happening with, I got involved with it in Fifth Ward. So we need to do everything that they said, but you also have to include in the conversation, watch out for the bureaucrats who are working in some sense for the developer, not the citizen. So since I can't ask the councilwoman a question.
You can ask her a question.
You can ask. You know I'm teasing.
Well, you know, I just want to.
I just don't know. You know, you're so astute.
Yeah, I'm some of that. I'm some of that and a little more. But look at here. What about how tense is it right now at City Hall? Are y'all feeling some of the effects as it's not about y'all, but it's in the environment of the city with all the investigations? Does it impact you as a councilwoman, even though it's not about you?
Well, certainly the person that has been on the news is somebody that's very, very close and very near and dear to all of the council members, because he was the council liaison and a wonderful person. But as far as the impact, I'm not really thinking that there are any council members that will be included in any of the investigations. Well, I know this council member not be part of any investigations. I can speak for her. Wait a minute, I'm gonna point to myself. I can speak to her, right? Because first and foremost, I don't think all money is good money. And if you're coming at me, giving me money, and I will tell you, if you're not giving it to me for good government, then you need to keep your money, because and I have actually given somebody their money back. And which
bravo.
My finance report was trembling though, but I did give it back. But I'm sure that they're keeping the story out there. So, which generally means that they are looking for others. And, I all I can do is sit and wait and continue to do my job, because I'm very certain that I'm not caught up in any of that. But then there are others that are coming out as well in this thing that are showing that they perhaps have been engaged in some form or fashion without me calling any names. But certainly it was a shock. It came as a shock to I believe all of us, but I know to me that person, but pled guilty and certainly is the subject of the investigation. But I don't know about the tenseness. I sleep well at night. I'll put it that way.
Okay.
And so I don't know about others, whether they're having to use Sominex or drinking whatever they need to do to go to sleep. But I'm good. I'm good.
Dr. Matthews, what's your spin on some of that conversation?
Oh man, I love it. I want to say first of all to my sister, Councilwoman District D, your sister had to go to Lamar. She could not have gone to Yates. She wouldn't have made it.
My sister graduated from Jack Yates High School.
Happy
She just
birthday
got
to
around
her.
you, brother. She got around you.
Yeah. I know she took the back street. But listen, I always refer to your district as district development. The D stands for development. We know there's a focus in that area. And Dr. Gilmore, it's interesting we're having this conversation because my philosophy is at this point in life, if you can't beat them, join them. And the reason why I say that is for years, I've been advocating for over 35 years, unity, coming together, working together. I've been beating the drum about the unfairness and disparity of distribution equally with equity to the community for participation in contracts, development, and all of those things. And I've just never seen any positive response come from any leadership to address those concerns. One of the things I know that the powers that be understand that we are divided in our community, with dysfunction in our community, there are issues, and they know it's been a land grab. There were people that represented in city position that sent out their bag man to buy these properties for pennies on the dollar, waiting for the house to take over. The ION building, I noticed lately in the last 30 days or so, it's been a lot of conversation from institutions or systems like Harris Health, University of Houston, Texas Southern, Baylor College, UT, talking about intentional metro, inclusive, equity division, diversity inclusion rather, for minority participation. The primes are getting the jobs. They're promoting. Title III was something that's been around a long time for the subcontractors or the subprimes who don't have the bond covering to participate in development and what have you. They know, people know that we don't have civic clubs and associations for that organization to block different things that come in our community, homeowners association. We just don't have that in our inner city. We haven't had it, brother. And so in real estate, the investor's mindset is the highest and greatest use. So what I decided to do was to join them. And in my discovery, now being a developer, I find it very interesting, welcoming. I understand the return on that. And what I've always said, and I've even proposed to the faith-based community of presidents of associations and organizations, hey, won't you have a community call, identify people who have tax delinquencies, who are about to lose their property, call them in, do a human capital assessment, identify people in your church who have skills, whether it be HVAC, electricians, carpenters, bricklayers, whatever the case may be, and we have them in our community. Bring them together and then create a legal entity. We have to learn how to do business. Create a legal entity, whether it's a syndication, whether it is a SAP program, or whether it's a LLC, a limited liability partnership. We have people who skilled like Pastor Rush, who understand law, real estate, Listen, we have human capital in our community that we don't identify, we don't appreciate those services, and we don't bring them together in a unified fashion. And we can actually be a part of this development and growth, because I believe that economically is where you make the difference. Is when you can build a fourplex, a person can still own their property, and they can become an owner of their property and still get a passive income. We got to stop thinking in terms of a handout and start becoming a part of the economic process of obtaining wealth. That's why I am with that situation. And until we come together as a community, work together in a unified fashion, address these issues, have leadership like my dear beloved sister Shavaz, that's bold and courageous to lend her voice to speak truth to power and have the door to access to wealth. Listen, stop complaining. I can't do it no more. I'm not doing it from this day forward. I'm not dealing with gentrification. Information is out there. We can do something about it if we come together. It's time for us to come together and stop fighting each other. And I'm tired of us always talking about the damn problem and we never focus on the issue. Abraham Lincoln said, I spent 80% sharpening my axe and 20% cutting down the goddamn tree. What we need to do is start learning how to cut down the tree, man. That's my take on that.
Let me get a perspective from our key sociological thought processor, far as I'm concerned, in Houston, Dr. Bobby Mills, who is a sociologist. First of all, give me some clarity of this term gentrification today, because it leads to other social problems, which I'm gonna let OG speak to in terms of how he sees it. But give us a perspective on this idea of gentrification, because it's happening not only in Houston, all over the country, really. But where are we moving to? I mean, Dr. Mills, you still there with us?
I'm here, Doc. Well, the nail was hit on the head when the previous speaker said property. It's all about property rights. And property is the basis for wealth creation. And the problem we have in our community is that it has been difficult for us to pass property on from one generation to the next. And that takes place for a number of reasons. So once we teach our people in our churches and community organizations, in our universities, etc., that the basis for wealth creation is property. It's not cars, it's not clothes, it's not all of these vanity-oriented things that titillate and sensualate and all of that kind of thing. It's about property. And until we understand that, because that's all gentrification is about, it's about whites, affluent whites coming in and reclaiming the property, because the only thing that no more is going to create it is land. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. And once it was created, that's it. And until we understand that, we're going to be up a creek without a paddle.
Yeah.
I want to say that I was, I am taking a proactive approach. I actually had a well-attended deed restriction workshop over at Good Hope Church, because, you know, it's one thing to tell people that they need to do something, but as a council member, I felt I needed to provide those tools. And so we actually had a workshop with a pretty thick book that we gave people. But even further, we are still trying to get legal assistance, because some of the civic clubs need lawyers to help them to draft these deed restrictions. And so we're trying to procure a grant that we could use to help people with these deed restrictions. And so certainly, you know, the information is out there, but we have to come together, like Reverend Matthews said. We have to come together. But we are, I don't know, sometimes I'm a little disillusioned by the fact of how we do pull each other down. You know, I look at other communities, even when it comes to elected officials. I look at Latinos. they seldom, when they have a person that's sitting in an elected position, they usually don't even challenge them. They support them and they keep it moving. You know what I'm saying? But we are constantly stabbing at each other to move a person out. I kind of think it's somewhat of a plantation mentality to say that, well, I'm from Mr. Gilmore and I'm from Mr. Matthews plantation. And so, you know what I'm saying? And so it's like we are challenging each other rather than supporting each other because, the deal is we are better together.
Yeah.
We are better together. Now, if you have somebody sitting somewhere that don't want to cooperate, don't want to listen, don't want to help nobody, then, that's a different story. But, if you have somebody that's really trying, and I'm not saying this based on me, I'm saying based on situations that I have seen where we just really, really try to knock each other off of the heel, so to speak. And so, again, the proactive approach is necessary, and also an approach where we are working together. Because
but
information
I'm
in gentrification.
Let me interject this because I want OG to give me some understanding. When you use the term, we use the term haves and have-nots. OG, did you notice the other day when they had I think one of the rappers was in the IHOP or he was in the restaurant and he was flashing his on social media, his jewelry, and he got shot dead in the restaurant. I mean, he was in the restaurant, the Waffle House, something. I don't know if y'all saw that, but it was a pretty noted rapper with his girlfriend and robbed. And I guess what I'm trying to get some perspective on is this whole, where do you run to? My daddy used to say we moved from the country to the city in some of these places, right? Now we took over some places where others, like in our area, Riverside, the Jews were here and they moved over, down the bayou. And then now here come, other folk, and then some folk, OG, never did move nowhere, no further than the CUNY home, which they finna redo the CUNY home, and they stuck. If you understand what I'm saying, OG, and do you see that as a factor when you look at the violence, the abnormal behavior, the culture that's a part of our reality as Black people, particularly? I mean, it's all culture, but I'm talking about Black people.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me again. You know what I'm saying? I'm always pleased and pleasure to be amongst my peers in dealing with these issues here. When it comes to gentrification, you're saying, I think we didn't hit a bounce in the road in which way we do go on that issue now. But I'm always stay in my lane when it comes to dealing with even if we build safe communities, we can't build safe communities till we get the violence under control, because even in our community, nobody's gonna deal with nobody or buy nothing in a violent community dealing with what we refuse to focus on, which is our children. Right now, one of the issues I've been dealing with the state issue on dealing with a lot of the young boys that I deal with come out of these TYC cases that been locked up 23 hours a day because of the understaffing of our children in Harris County. We have on our list with those judges down there, 2 out of every 4 children that's in TYC come from Harris County. And we're allowing ourselves to let that go away. We're letting that real estate and that property be shut down and not said nothing about, but that real estate is coming back to our community. That real estate I'm talking about is our children. So when we keep them locked down 23 hours a day for 6 and 7 months, and we let them out on the weekend with understaffed on the facility, but they have to piss and take urines in bottles, they have to urinate in cans in the cell. And we allow them to come back to our community, and we wonder why they do things like the 2 20-year-olds that killed the police officer coming just to go get something for his parents. And we wonder why, even in our community, I've been fighting for the last 3 years to know that even with this new cash bond thing, that new cash bond thing is something good rehabilitating and the changing of the criminal justice system. But we have to have people in place with lived experience, with recovery coach, trauma-informed training to deal with these brothers that's exiting out of the institutions. Because we know, and we have always said, that Harris County is the biggest mental hospital in the city and in the state.
That's true.
So we can talk about how do we keep building communities, but again, how do we produce safe communities that we're willing to live in again? Because the communities that I'm traveling through now with young people, the people that's living that don't feel safe. So that's where I'm at and going in this direction. How do we build institutions to where we can change the mindset and deal with the past, the transgenerational trauma that our children are dealing with that's keep passing on through our community, that keeps us so upset, that keeps us separated and keep us divided. You know, the Harris County, Houston is putting together millions of dollars of violence interrupters program. And I say that without Harris County, the city of Houston have not approached the frontline workers that have been doing this work and come to us and say, look here, we need you to put a team of brothers together with some brothers that know how to manage these brothers coming to the street and put something that's gonna be successful. Don't put no program that's gonna be watered down, that I'm gonna put enough money involved with the people that I put on the front line to fail in the next 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, I saw that where the two 20-year-olds killed that officer for nothing, really. It was nothing. Then the other officer got killed. It was suicide, which this is Suicide Prevention Month. Bishop Rush, you're working with the University of Houston Medical School. I mean, do they have that kind of idea of engaging more into the community to offer service, or do you think they are fully equipped and they just need our help?
First of all, I want to thank all of you for such great responses. I want to go back to Dr. Shabazz and say to you, Dr. Shabazz, I think that if I heard your point about needing more legal help for the civic clubs, my suggestion would be that you consider talking to some of the law schools and get some of those well-trained students like third year, or they have, some titles of CLE or whatever you call it. And those students and you have a Black dean over at U of H, you got a Black dean at TSU. So you have students that could come and be assigned to help the civic clubs get this work done. That's number one. And so kind of that same approach, we are talking with U of H and we're working, when I say we, our church, we're setting up a school which is called the Royal Ambassadors School of Leadership. We're going to train, I'm talking about you now, OG, we're going to train youth from boys to men. That's one of the mentoring classes we'll have. Girls etiquette. These are Saturday classes. Monday through Friday, we'll have adult classes. Monday night will be GED. Tuesday night, the EEDC, well, under Alicia Neal, y'all know of her, they're going to come teach a small business training class or entrepreneurship. Wednesday night, we take off for Bible study. Thursday night, U of H is working with us for a pre-diabetes program. Friday night, we'll probably work with Gwen Pierre and some others to do some public speaking. Saturday all day will be for the youth. So we're separating the adults from the youth. I'm talking about the same thing OG was talking about, the same thing all of you are talking about. What is that? We need to be about helping the people in the community to reduce the violence, get to the bottom line of what people are doing. People are being destroyed for lack of what? Lack of knowledge. So we want to help with the knowledge. Give you some of these classes, then I'll be quiet so others can speak. On Saturday, we'll have Godly Girls, we'll have boys. Now, Godly Girls is taught by Ann Miller. Some of y'all will know of her. Donnell Cooper, who is running for office, I believe, he will teach a boys to men's class. He did that for us years ago, probably 20 years ago. He taught a 3G class, teaching boys how to tie their tie, how to be gentlemen. That's what's wrong. These little boys in the community need to be trained from how to get out of these gangs and all that kind of stuff and get into something where they can get some mentors. We'll have a writing class. We'll have a tennis class. We'll have a dance class. Those of you who know of Lauren Anderson at the ballet, either Lauren's going to teach it herself or she's going to assign somebody to do it. We'll have, like I say, a tennis class, writing class. I wrote a program for HISD in 1999 called Leaders of Tomorrow. Think of it as a glorified career day, if you will. But we want to pull in some of you experts in your area and have these kids hear from you. How can I become an astronaut? How can I become a politician? How can I become, a teacher or a mechanic or any of these professionals, the doctors, the lawyers, etc. So that's what we are doing. We're setting up a school and we're working from the basis that we need to train the children and adults to how to be better citizens. Our vision or our motto is establishing a legacy of learning and leadership. And Dr. Shabazz has offered to help us with a letter of support. We appreciate that. I'm going to mute, but what I'm saying again is there's no one answer to all of this, but each one of us, that's why you have us on, each one of us can bring that expertise. I'm retired, 43 years from lawyering, but I'm retired from that so I can focus on the ministry that needs to be done in the community. We're determined to leave the community better than we got it when we got there. We have 8 lots. We're not selling anything, but if we were to sell, I'll tell you this, or talk to Marcus Davis. Marcus was interested to buy. I totally agreed with what y'all was saying a while ago, Brother Matthew, said that even some of the Black brothers and sisters could come together and put a plan together to develop some of that land instead of letting it go to others who don't have a heart and soul for the community. So I hope that makes sense. God bless you. I'm through, brother.
Can I interject with you there, brother? Brother Wash, and that's a great work, man. And you've been really keeping your feet to the fire and empowering the community. But I want us to just please add financial literacy there. I never shall forget that I didn't know anything about a FICO score until I was the age of 25 years old. And when I heard FICO, I thought it was a disease. I didn't realize it meant the Fair Isaac Corporation. I was at an investors meeting on last night where this investor from Mexico shared his background and experience where he has his son. His wife wanted his son to go to college, higher education, and get the degree. Rich dad, poor dad got an excellent program for teaching how to handle money, investment. Monopoly used to be the game, right? Of how to buy, how to sell, and not go to jail, right? But he's taking his son. They went and made a deal with his wife and said, listen, in the next year, 2 years, if I earn $250,000 learning what my dad is doing and going to teach me and mentor me to do with wholesaling and buying real estate at the lowest cost available to zero cost, using other people's money, going to school to become a realtor, become the inspector. The deal was he didn't have to go to college. So I'm saying one of the things that's really missing in our community is that we really have to teach our youth about the power of credit and financial literacy, what that means, assets, how to invest, how to make money an employee, given an assignment. As my brother mentioned earlier, mentioned that it's not about Gucci and Chanel and bags that's, that cost $500 and red bottom shoes, and yet our credit score is $350 and can't buy anything, become a prey to the predator for title loans, land grabs. Because once you go get that money to keep your property with the city of Houston, by the time the legal company get a hold of you, they worse than gangsters. They're gonna tax you so bad that it's hard to keep your property. I had to fight for my property because I was determined to turn around and use it for the highest and greatest use. And I say to my brother OG and all of us, I believe that economics is the bedrock because when you have the bag, you don't have to beg. You can go in and you can use your sphere of influence to say, this is what I want done. This is how I want it done. And guess what? The financial institutions, the politicians, and anybody else will have to talk to you because you got the bag. And my focus is economic development in the bag.
Brother Carl, to answer your question real quick and be out the way, Brother Gilmore, the class is called Money 101, and it is one of the classes that we're going to, I couldn't give them all, but it's Money 101. It will deal with making money, spending money, saving money, and investing the money. You are absolutely right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, brother.
Dr. Shabazz, I know you got to leave. You got a last comment for us?
Well, I should have left 15 minutes ago. But anyway,
I'm gonna let you leave.
Conversations are always so engaging that it's really kind of hard. I don't know if this is the only night of the week that you do it on the third Thursday of every month.
Yeah, it's been like that for Houston Access. Yeah, Houston Media Source.
I get it. But certainly this has been a great conversation, but one of the things, and I know that a lot of the violence is because of the lack of conflict resolution strategies, but I was having a very interesting conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and she made perfect sense. Our children now spend more time texting on Instagram, on social media, and they really don't know how to deal with social issues. What happens, I think that they get in these situations, and because they are not able to communicate, because that's not what they're accustomed to doing, they sit at the dinner table, they text, they're in their, whatever they can get a phone, the phone is constantly in their faces. And so that's what I think is lacking. When we grew up, we had to talk to each other, and then we had conflicts. We may have had a scuffle here and there, but we were not so frustrated that we couldn't handle ourselves or, talk. We had many ranks going on the patio at Jack Yates. Okay.
That's right.
But they didn't culminate in the kind of violence that we have now. And I think that when our young people are faced now with situations that they're getting upset about, they don't know how to communicate. So since they don't know how to communicate, they resort to a gun, they resort to a knife or something to just try to get rid of whatever that is that they are feeling threatened by. But she just really articulated it so well that I really would like to get her a platform, at some point, because it made perfect sense what she said in regards to our children not being able to communicate outside of texting and social media. And so certainly, of course, I'm always a person that pushes education as well, along with economics. And I just want people to know we lost a generation of pushing people to college instead of pushing them in trades and things that they really, really love, basically. And we didn't give them the respect that they deserve. Because, I can't fix my own car. I can't, do my plumbing, anything like that. But we pushed a generation to college that, and I'm not saying that they weren't college material, because I believe that's something we should never tell our kids. College material is anything past high school. And if it means it's a trade, that's a college. If it means a 4-year degree, that's college. But we lost a generation, and we really need to recapture that generation, because it's the people who get these trades that are entrepreneurs, and they can charge what they want to charge, and they can have certain economic stability in their lives because they do have skills. Now, personally, I have the degree, but I also have a trade. I'm a real estate broker. And actually, to be honest with you, it's the trades that bring you more money than the academic degrees. And so we need to recapture that. We need to recapture our youth, direct them in the path of what they are interested in doing, and then they will not have a problem going to get the credentials that they need. And so that's my closing comment. We need to learn how to communicate past the telephone, and I mean the texting and the social media. And we need to prepare ourselves by taking courses that help us to get to credentials that we can take care of our families. And so
Thank
it's
you.
always,
Huh?
I'm sorry?
No, I said thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anyway,
No,
I
just thank
love
you.
talking to you guys, but I'm going to go over here and it's probably almost over, but that's okay. That just means they didn't need me tonight. I'm here.
Thank you.
So thank you
Tell
so much.
sis I say happy birthday.
I will. And please give my sorrow and my regards, Reverend Gilmore.
I will do. Her birthday's coming up too.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And you
Thank
can
you
ask
very
me
much.
some questions, Charles X. White, now that I'm gone. Thank you. Bye.
You know I am. Gilmore, let me say this on this.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
don't want you to take it negatively.
Okay.
I'm talking about to my colleagues
Oh, okay.
and any colleagues that's looking. We do what we do for whatever reason, and we've been doing a good job at it. And it's almost like walking in sand. Rather than give up, we're gonna keep going till we die. Right. That's just in us to do that. I looked at a statistic, but the horse is out of the bone. All the problems that we have in the Black community that have not been addressed in the last 30 years, don't go back 60, as a collective, when we had the money, we had leadership, we had all of that, and we still did nothing from the top down. The bottom up is asking for relief from the top that they put in place. They had a statistic to show the disparities of Black women's money and white women's job payroll, right? As soon as the Black woman got a raise, the white woman got a raise. The moral in the story was the Black woman's never gonna catch up to equalize the pay scale of the white woman. Now, when we talk about disparities, displacement, inequities, where are the bureaucrats that's gonna help us craft to turn the ship around? We don't have very many. And the ones we have are trying to keep their job. There's some realities that we have to peel back the onion and deal with as a reality if we gonna move forward in a collective, wholesale. Because what we're doing now, what G-Man is doing, what I'm doing, what everybody's doing, we gonna do that, but why don't G-Man have some money? I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna get through. I used to say this in the 80s, early 80s until now. Why didn't the elected officials at all levels fund Madge Bush and the Martin Luther King Center more and better than it did so it could grow? Why didn't they fund Reverend Ray to expand PAVA so it could grow? Why didn't they fund Lloyd Parker more where he could grow? They should have, and back then I was saying this, they should have multiple outlets in the city employing people, but you don't see that going on in the community anymore. So we don't have our own. So the United Way is taking over. The Hester House in different places. We just don't have the manpower because we don't have the funding and the access. And somebody at the top and the middle is diverting the funds and the resources another way.
Dr. Mills, what kind of sociological view would you have of that diversion and the lack of leadership?
Well, the foundation of all of our problems is the breakdown of the family. Because family unit is the basic unit of every society. And obviously, from the beginning, the system, capitalistic white system, has been oriented toward the destruction of the Black family. And obviously, we've been helping with that venture. So until we understand that the first economic system, when you want to talk about economics, is your family. Yeah. So when we do not understand that unless you can work together as a family unit and pass on generational wealth,
that's true.
then we will always be hustling backwards, which is what we're doing now.
Right.
And the reason why we're doing it, look at Fifth Ward, with all of the Black people who own property, and their children ended up, once they die, going to California or whatever, not paying the taxes, and the white people come in, get the property for little or nothing, paying the taxes, and they start building $300,000 and $400,000 and $500,000 townhomes. And who are they building them for? They're building them for the whites who dealt with white flight, went to the suburbs. Now they need to come back in because all of the jobs and the economic development is in the city. It's not in the suburbs, and they don't want to drive 30 and 40 miles in order to get to their jobs in the inner city. So our problem has been created primarily not just by the system, but by us, because we refuse to understand that the basic unit of society is your family structure. Therefore, once we learn to deal with each other with love and respect and unity and so forth, we'll be a better people, and we'll better, we won't be robbing and stealing and killing from one another in our own community.
Dr. Mills, would you agree that the political dynamic, even when you got a solid family structure, if you don't understand the political public policy dynamic that moves money in your neighborhood and out of your pocket, then we still got a problem. Even though we got a strong family unit, we still got predators on the outside that's attacking us. And when they change the rules,
I agree, but we also have predators that we put in elected office.
Yeah, well, I agree with that.
That represent themselves rather than representing our interests.
I agree with that.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mills, and to all of you. We've run out of time. We got to have another opportunity to have a follow-up conversation. This has been certainly pertinent today. I think one of the things we've got to think about is the unity that we are now engaged in, and what OG was talking about, regardless of where you go, and you still got to deal with the crime, and hopefully we can support Bishop Russell's program and the thoughts that we've been shared tonight with Dr. Matthews and others. But this has been Public Affairs, Public Access. For 30 years, the Houston Media Source has been broadcasting, trying to give you some news information that might not be censored, and certainly not viewed positive by others, negative by some, but that's called Public Access, Public Affairs.
And I have
to say thank you very much. Thank you very much. I hope you can stay tuned. There's going to be more shows coming up. We're going to have a follow-up to this conversation, but you've got to stay tuned to Houston Media Source. I've been your host, Robert McKinley Gilmore Sr. It's a blessing.
Thank you, sir.